Hello, it's me again, giving you the introduction to our ancient Near Eastern unit. So I begin. I will proclaim to the world the deeds of Gilgamesh. This was the man to whom all things were known. This was the king who knew the countries of the world. He was wise. He saw mysteries and knew secret things. He brought us a tale of the days before the flood. He went on a long journey, was weary, worn out with labor. Returning, he rested and engraved on a stone the whole story. When the gods created Gilgamesh, they gave him a perfect body. Shamash, the glorious sun, endowed him with beauty. Adad, the god of the storm, endowed him with courage. The great gods made his beauty perfect, surpassing all others, terrifying like a great wild bull. 2/3 they made him god, and 1/3 they made him man. In Uruk, he built walls, a great rampart, and the temple of the blessed Iana for the god of the firmament, Anu, and for Ishtar, goddess of love. Look at it still today, the outer wall where the cornice runs, it shines with the brilliance of copper. The inner wall, it has no equal. Touch the threshold. It is ancient. That's the prologue, the opening, the beginning, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the oldest epic surviving from anywhere in the world, the earliest hefty piece of literature at all from anywhere. It survives in a kind of text called cuneiform. That's what this is, which is a text made by pressing a usually wooden object called a stylus, which is you use them on your tablet devices today, but these were little wedge-shaped ones, little triangular ones that were pressed into wet clay to produce a series of different repeating patterns that were their letter forms. We're entering a radical change in the history of the world from last unit, prehistory, to the ancient Near East. This unit is historical. They wrote things down. They wrote the Epic of Gilgamesh down, but they also wrote a whole lot of other things down. There are surviving political texts, royal genealogies, law codes, as well as religious texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh. They also invented a bunch of other things in this time period, which some people have credited to writing. Once you have writing, you're able to really assemble and accrue knowledge in a much more profound way, perhaps, than in non-literate cultures. Though, those of us who are logocentric, that is to say, very focused on words, on texts, and what they can accomplish, can sometimes underestimate what oral cultures are able to preserve. In any case, in addition to writing, the folks of this period also invented the wheel, so the single most important machine in human history, the plow, which allowed for a great deal more farming. They learned how to cast metals so that they could make repeated objects out of metal, which is a material you can't really work by hand. You can't carve it. You have to melt it down and forge it into something. And because of all of this writing that they left behind, we know a great deal more about what these artifacts were for, what their buildings were for, how their societies were organized. The sites of the ancient Near East, some of them are still very famous today, in large measure because they're recorded in the Bible. The city of Ur, where Abraham was born, for example, or the city of Babylon. These were sites from this period and this place. There was no large country or something called the ancient Near East. It's a modern term and it's kind of problematic one. But what we had instead was a group of little city-states. So that's a city and the landscape around it that would be farmed to provide food for the city. And these little city-states were constantly at war with one another. They had a shared culture of sorts. There's some language families that were popular there. There are some shared gods between them. There's shared artistic traditions, cultural traditions, but there's also a lot of difference. And so we'll look at a couple of different ancient Near Eastern city-states and how their works of art differ in this unit. Most of the religions from this period are now gone, but one of the world's most prominent surviving religions, Judaism, actually owes its origin to this period. And Hebrew, the ancient language of Judaism, is a Semitic language that was from family languages that were spoken in other city-states there as well. And the ancient Hebrews were just one of many of these groups before their religion kind of shifted a bunch and they started to distinguish themselves more and more from the peoples around them. So there's a very enduring cultural legacy of this period in terms of writing, in terms of other kinds of technology, but also in terms of religion, culture that endure into the modern world. We'll see architecture becoming much more monumental. We will see little rulership growing into real powerful kingship. And we will see complexity of artifacts really ramping up in this period. So it's a really fascinating and wonderful moment in global historical culture. Hope you enjoy it.